Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Welcome to Self-Care for Empaths with essential oils and crystals. I'm so happy that that you guys are here and that we are doing this. I'm going to give everybody a couple minutes to pop on, and I know some people will probably be checking back and watching this later, so that's awesome too. It'll stay up right here in the group, so if you have any friends or any family members who you think would benefit from any of this info, then you can show them this group. You could tag them here, add them to the group. So thanks for hopping on, you guys. Hello, hi Susie, hi Jennifer, hi Taryn. Yeah, so let's get started. I'm really excited. It's so funny. I wanted to share how this idea came about, because I literally was like, why would people want to learn about this? So I wanted to start by sharing how this came about, because I think it ties in nicely with the content of what we're going to be talking about today. So I often have to meditate, be quiet, be by myself, just to kind of feel centered and calm and grounded, because I get easily overwhelmed, and which is probably like a lot of you. And so at one point, you know how when you sit down and you're quiet or you're out in nature, sometimes you get like a little idea or some information kind of comes through. And you know, I mean, it sounds kind of cliche, but sometimes you hear somebody who's super spiritual or like a healer or whatever say, oh, I got like a download or I got a hit or something. Anyway, it was that kind of thing though, where I got this word like empaths, like you need to teach about being an empath or whatever. And I was like, what does that even mean? I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to tuck that away, because that word in itself, like, are people going to even know what that means? Like, is that word, do people know what that means? Is it overused in our society? Like, anyway, so I got that message and I was like, yeah, whatever. That's totally weird. I'm not going to teach a class on that. And then I got it again. And I should know by now that when we get that kind of information, even though it doesn't make any sense sometimes, there's a reason that we're getting that information. So again, it came through like, it's time to teach a class about empaths. And I was like, what is this? So anyway, I decided before I put any more thought or doubt into it, I just threw together that little graphic and posted it in this group in Drop Into Wellness. And I was like, oh, people are going to think this is so weird. Like, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about yet. Like, this is crazy. But for some reason, this is supposed to get out there. So, and like, I was totally overwhelmed by the response by all of you guys who were like, yes, I can't wait to learn this. This is amazing. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, so people really do want to learn about this. So anyway, thank you for being interested and for being here. So that's how this class came about. And then I started to really, even up until like 10 minutes ago, it was like, oh, like, you know, I'm getting this information, like, tell them about this, tell them about that. So I have tons of information. And my intention for this class is to share from my own experience, share some things that have helped me. And my intention is always, from sharing what I know or what I've studied or learned or tried myself, is that it's going to help someone else. Like, the reason that I'm supposed to talk about it is because somebody else, all of you, there's a little nugget that you can pull from it, or several nuggets, or something that you can pass along to other people. So some of it might really resonate with you, or some of it might remind you of someone in your life who could benefit from this. And so it gives me like the chills when I think about that, because I feel like we have so much untapped potential inside of us, and the more we tap into that and use it to help ourselves, we then help other people, and we teach them to be empowered to take their health and wellness into their own hands. And it's just, we spread more health and wellness, spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, throughout our community, you know, our family and our friends, and then and beyond, you know. So that's my intention. Heal the world, right? So I have lots of little like notes and things here that I might kind of glance down at just to try to keep me on track, because I could probably talk about this for like 8 hours, but I'm going to try to keep it concise and to the point. So if you want to grab like a pen and a little journal to take some notes, it might be helpful, or just sit back and enjoy and just kind of soak it in and know that whatever, if you're driving or something like that, know that whatever you take away is what you're supposed to learn. And then if you want to come back later and listen and take notes or something, you can. I like to take notes sometimes, but sometimes I like to just listen. So whatever feels right for you. So I wanted to first start out with like what even is an empath, because that's, I don't know what that word means to you guys, but basically an empath is somebody who is really sensitive person that actually feels other people's emotions and often takes on other people's emotions and even physical things. So some of you have maybe heard part of my story when I open up to teach emotional release. I talk about some of this, so some of it might be familiar, but it's just my experience and my story. But basically, as a young child, and probably for most of you, I was super sensitive. I mean, I just remember feeling uncomfortable in my own skin, and it was a negative thing. For the people in my environment, it was like, why are you so sensitive? You are too sensitive. I heard that over and over and over like a broken record. That's actually one of the classic empath, like, you've been told you're too sensitive. Like, I just read that like a couple days ago. I was like, what? I've been told that my whole life, So that is one thing, that we are a person who is classified as an empath. If that's something that you are or someone that you know, we are sensitive. And so I think as a young kid, kids anyway are just more sensitive. There's not as much clutter, they don't have as much stress, as much responsibility, as many worries, and so they are just super connected, and they feel everything. And I hear some people say like, oh, kids are so resilient, and I'm like, I don't know that I believe that, because I don't think that they are. I think kids absorb things, and it impacts us for the rest of our life, and sometimes it creates physical blocks or emotional blocks or things that hold us back in our careers, in our friendships, in our relationships with our spouse or our children. So I think that kids are not really that resilient. That's just my opinion. They soak it in and they process it in whatever way that they know how, depending on their age and their skills. But so I was this very sensitive kid that I felt sick to my stomach a lot. And it wasn't that I had actual physical like illness. I just remember just having this aching feeling in my gut all the time, and I would say I have a stomach ache, and it was almost like stress related or worry related. But when I think about certain times in my childhood, I just remember feeling sick to my stomach and super uncomfortable and very vulnerable. So what I did is I spent many years shutting my sensitivities down. Things were always too loud for me. My parents were young parents. My parents are awesome. Hi, Mom, if you're watching. My mom's actually in Ecuador right now with my dad, with Young Living at the farm. But anyway, my parents are awesome. I have a great relationship with them. But, my story and their stories, they were young. They were in their early 20s, and they had me. They were still hanging out and partying. They were hippies. They were, doing all their fun stuff, and they just kind of were bringing me along. And I just remember it was too loud. It was too stimulating. The band was like, it was always too much for me. And so one thing that happened to me that I think is interesting is when I was about 5, I went to the nurse because they were checking everybody's hearing. They put on these little like headphones and they put these little beeps. Did you guys ever have that? And they're like, okay, raise your hand when you hear the beep. And it was just a regular screening. And like, she kept looking at me saying like, raise your hand when you hear the beep. And I was like, I don't hear any beeps. And she called my mom like right away. I remember her saying, oh my gosh, like you have a lot of hearing loss, like 85% in your right ear and 50% in your left ear. Like I need to call your mom right now. And my parents were like, oh my gosh. they felt so bad. And my mom remembers she would yell to me like, dinner's ready, and I wouldn't come. And she just thought I was ignoring her. By the time she like got my attention, she'd be like in my face, like, dinner's ready. And I was like, oh my gosh. But I think, and this is just from what I've learned and studied and the self-healing that I've done, I think I shut down my hearing because I was too sensitive to hear it all. Whether someone was arguing or whether the news was on or it was a party and it was loud or whatever it was, I think I just created this mechanism where I just started to shut down. And so I'm sharing this because I feel like sometimes when young children have ear problems, there's an emotional component. They don't want to hear what's going on in their environment. And it's not to blame the parents or the grandparents or the babysitter or the school or whatever. It's just that that might be a protective mechanism. Yes, we found out I was allergic to gluten and dairy, and we removed those things from my diet, and it did improve. So there's definitely that component. But I do think there was also a component of me just needing to shut down because I needed some time where I could just not have all the outside noise. So I firmly believe that I am an empath. And that's why I'm here to share some of these stories and hopefully cultivate a little bit more awareness for the empathic part of yourself or something in someone else, that we could be a little bit more compassionate, because I think sometimes, a lot of times, we're misunderstood. Kids are misunderstood. We're just in a society where we're busy, and if you don't fit the norm and you don't fit inside the little box, sometimes you get outcast. And I felt like an outcast as a kid. We ate differently. I felt differently. I didn't feel like I had anybody to connect to about the way I felt, other than, my parents saying, why are you so sensitive? Just figure it out, don't cry. Why are you crying all the time? There was lots of things like that. So for me, what happened is I ended up going into competitive gymnastics, and competitive gymnastics was great because it was a distraction from being away from my family and life, and it ended up becoming my life. I spent like 3 to 5 hours in the gym every day for 10 years. And in gymnastics, there were moments where it was quiet and it was all me, and I was on the balance beam and I could get really clear and focused, and I was in control, and I liked that. So there was this control part, and there was that silence and that focus that I needed. I just needed it to be all by myself and for me to focus. And so I love gymnastics because I felt like it was my outlet, it was my escape. It got out all of those feelings that I had. If I got mad or sad, I channeled it into my gymnastics practice. So anyway, it was kind of an escape, but it kept me out of trouble, it kept me focused, and I think it created the person that I am today. Then I went into body work. I went into studying about the body. I wanted to be a physical therapist first. And so I kind of went that route, and then I came back to holistic health and just wanted to put my hands on people's bodies, because in gymnastics I suffered a lot of injuries. And so with those injuries, I had healers and chiropractors and acupuncturists and doctors and a lot of people's hands on me, and there were certain people that really had a positive impact on me. And when I had their hands on me, I felt like that was so healing, the techniques they were using on me, and I knew I'm going to do that for other people. I want to help people heal, because it's so horrible when you're injured, because you have the physical component, but then you also have the mental component, and you're depressed and you're sad, and to have someone caring about you and wanting to get you back to health again, and you being motivated to get back to health, I was just like, this is perfect. So I've always wanted to help people with their health and wellness in some way. But when I went into massage, I was pretty young, I was like 19, and I just didn't understand the emotional part of putting your hands on someone. And I don't, my school was great, but it either went right through, or they didn't really teach about empaths or taking things on to the degree that I don't know, was gifted or had. So I started doing massage and body work, and I would put my hands on people, and I remember them talking about, someone might have an emotional release on the table. Sometimes when people start to relax and let go and, you have your hands on them, they'll let go of something. And I was like, ew, what is that? Emotional release, ugh. Coming from the person who was too sensitive, had to shut down, and then went into gymnastics. In gymnastics, we weren't allowed to cry. We had to be super tough. We had to suck it up. We had to endure pain. So it was all part of my kind of getting hard and closing down. And then all of a sudden I'm putting my hands on people and, trying to get in touch with this softer, more sensitive side. So it took me quite a few years before I realized that I wanted to help people through the emotional stuff. I would feel it come up in their body. And sometimes I would feel it in my own body as like shaky or quivering, and I knew that they had been through some trauma. I didn't want to hear about it. I was like, can you just please go home and like release this, like not in my presence? And now I feel so bad, but I mean, here I am, this like 19, 20-year-old kid with these abilities or whatever. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I was too sensitive to deal with what it actually was. And there were a couple times where people were like, wow, I was abused as a kid, or I was beat up, or I was, they would like tell me this really gnarly story, and it came up on the table, and I just wanted to share it with you. And I was like, can you not share that with me? Like, I can't handle that right now. So, anyway, I came to a place where I started focusing on myself, because when I had my son, he is also an empath and a very highly sensitive kid who is brilliant and amazing, but he was the most challenging thing ever. From the pregnancy, I guess it wasn't the most challenging pregnancy, but it was hard for me to be pregnant because of how sensitive I am. But when he came into my life, it made me go down a path of healing. I learned Raindrop. That's when I got into Young Living. It's when I started to pay attention to more energy type healing like Reiki and crystals, and I went through a certification where I became a certified integrative healer, which was crystals, emotional release with essential oils, Raindrop, all of these different types of kind of more energetic and gentle healing. And through the process of healing myself and starting to use those techniques on others, I got to a place where I was able to hold space for people that were having heavier emotional release type things, and it wasn't affecting me the same. So back to what an empath is. I have in the post you guys probably saw, I listed a couple of things that we've kind of mentioned here, like uncomfortable in crowded places, feeling people's emotions, that gut feeling, issues with your low back or sacral chakra area, like in your digestive organs. But there's a couple other things I was just gonna ask you. Oh yeah, there's like this little quiz. So I'm just gonna run through these and you guys can just, see if this sounds like you or sounds like somebody that you know. So ask yourself, have I been labeled as too emotional or overly sensitive? If a friend is distraught, do I start to feel that too? Are my feelings easily hurt? Am I emotionally drained by crowds and require time alone to revive? Do my nerves get frayed by noise, smells, or excessive talk? Yeah, you can give a like if you're like, if you have anything that resonates, you can like or love, give some hearts. Do I prefer taking my own car places so that I can leave when I please? Do I overeat to cope with emotional stress? And am I afraid of being engulfed by intimate relationships? So that's just, you can Google empath and you can read more about it if you want, but I really identify with all of those things. And you might identify with one or two of them and not with the other ones, but those are just some traits. And so what I learned through doing body work and all this healing on myself and starting to put pieces together was that I needed to protect myself. I was like, it's all cool to like peel away this armor, but I don't want to be just this vulnerable blob like absorbing everybody's stuff. But I noticed that the more I started to work through my emotions and, release some stuff that happened to me when I was a kid through emotional release with essential oils, I was more vulnerable in some ways. And so I wanted to figure out that balance of being able to be there for people and facilitate that release for them, but not be scared that I was going to take it. Because as I started to become more aware, I had many times where I would see clients all day, doing craniosacral or Reiki or massage. I'd have my hands on people, and I would go home and I would either feel drained or I would physically feel sick. And I started to ask, is this mine or is this somebody else's? Did I take on somebody else's stuff? 9.9 times out of 10, I had taken on something from somebody else. And it wasn't their fault. They didn't mean to give that to me. They're just in this relaxed environment, and I'm like a freaking sponge, just like, I'll take that from you. And so they're floating out the door like, I feel wonderful. And I'm like, oh. So, and we do that all the time if we're not intentional about protecting ourselves. So being an empath, the word that I learned first was about the intuitive sense we call clairsentience. So clair means clear, and sentience is to feel. So clear feeling. So you hear people that are clairvoyant, right? They can see. They know what's going to happen because they can see it. There's clairaudience. People hear words or get guidance about what they're supposed to do. Well, clairsentience and being an empath are very similar. I think an empath is maybe to another degree or another level. And I read a couple different articles on empaths, and one was like only 5% of the population are actually empaths. Another one said 20%, so who knows. But I think a lot of us here that are attracted to listening to this, and even that are using oils and helping themselves heal and feel better, I think we're just more sensitive people. So that's clairsentience, and that's that we take on other people's stuff. We don't want to take on other people's stuff. Like that's not our responsibility to make people feel better by taking it. So I want to help people feel better, and I want to empower them to help themselves, but I need to be a really solid, grounded, clear, cleansed vessel for myself first before I can take care of other people, right? So that whole idea of putting on your oxygen mask first, like, it's hard for me. It's a daily struggle for me to get up in the morning and take care of myself and put my needs first before I start helping my family, my friends, my team, all of you guys, whatever. Like, I want to my initial reaction is just start helping other people. And I'll help other people all day long until I am a pile on the floor. And then I'm like, oh, I didn't do anything for myself today. Like, I skipped a meal. I didn't drink enough water. Like, I didn't get any exercise. Like, I will just do that. And so being an empath or being sensitive, we have to remember that we are the most important thing in our life, which sounds a little bit weird and like self-centered. So I'm going to go over today some of the things that help me to feel strong and centered and balanced. And I think like the big takeaway from everything is going to be that we have to figure out what we can do in order to feel balanced. And it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of effort, but when I'm consistent with it, everything flows so much better in my life. I think empaths have a lot of energy. They are so aware and have this heightened sense. They have a lot of energy, but I don't want to just give all that energy away. I want to keep it kind of growing inside me so that I kind of radiate. So my word for the year 2017 was radiate. And I keep getting new little pieces of why that was my word for the year. But I want to radiate from a place of like, I have so much energy that I am kind of like radiating. I don't know if that makes sense. But anyway, I don't want to give it all away. I want to keep it because that energy feels good. And I want everyone to cultivate their own energy from within so that they can radiate too. And when we radiate energy in that way and our frequency is high and we're balanced and we're healthy, we actually attract more good people into our lives. We have less drama and less yucky stuff and less just illness and just things that don't work. Like, we don't have as much stuff that's not working in our life. Everything in our life starts to flow. Like when you say, wow, I'm in the flow, and the right people are coming to you, your work is going well, your relationships feel good, your family is good. Like, that's where we want to be. We want to cultivate more of that and less of the like trudging through life like one step at a time, because that's not fun. So now that we know a little bit about what an empath is, I'm going to talk about one thing that I have been doing every day that makes me feel amazing. And sometimes I'll forget to do it first thing in the morning, and I'll come right home and do it after I drop off my kids at school. Or I've even gone until like the afternoon or evening and been like, oh, I haven't done it yet. I got to do it now. So it is called Gary Young's Good Day Protocol, and you might have heard about it before. And I don't think I had ever used it consistently enough to feel what it feels like until I went to the Young Living Balance Retreat. Was that last month or the month before? And I went, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And after that retreat, I wanted to do it every day to see how it made me feel, and that's what I've been doing. So what that protocol is, it's first Valor. And Valor is my favorite oil, if you guys haven't heard me talk about that before. And I think it's because, for me, Valor is the most grounding oil. It grounds the physical body. It helps us feel connected with the earth. And if we're super sensitive, we need as much grounding as we can get. So the first step in the Good Day Protocol is to put Valor on the soles of your feet. Sometimes I will rub it on the top of my feet and like rub it on my ankles. So I do this right when I get up in the morning. I will go in my bathroom, wash my face, and I will get out these oils. So Valor first on your feet, and then I will breathe it. I'll rub it, on my feet, and I'll just take some deep breaths of it. The next oil is Harmony, and Harmony goes right on there's a little piece of hair on there, sorry, right on your solar plexus. So that's right at the base of your ribs. And that is a place where I often feel weak, where I had those like stomach aches when I was a kid, like I got punched in the stomach. Like that was that gut feeling that I get when I'm overwhelmed or overstimulated, or when I feel uncomfortable. I get this kind of yucky feeling. And so I constantly need to strengthen that area. We're going to talk about some more things that strengthen that area, but Harmony oil is the second one. And then Joy is the third oil in the Good Day Protocol. And Joy oil you rub right over your heart. Joy is a high frequency oil. It has rose oil in it, so it's a blend, has rose oil in it, and it helps us to feel unconditional love for ourselves, which is where we need to, focus everything, self-care. So it's taking care of ourselves first. That way we have enough love to start to share and take care of other people, and then teaching them how to cultivate that self-love. So it's loving yourself, it's balancing the energy in your heart center, which also lets us receive love, so we can give and receive love freely and fully. So that's what that Joy oil is for, and Joy is a happy, uplifting oil. It's really nice. And for me, I actually need to use a little bit of carrier with Joy oil because my skin is sensitive if I put it on every day. So I'll put 1 drop of Joy and a couple drops of, what do I have in my bathroom right now? I think it's jojoba is the carrier that I'm using right now in my bathroom. And the last step, one of my favorite oils, is a blend called White Angelica. This blend is out of stock right now. I am praying that it comes back in stock by the end of the year because I know a lot of people are waiting for it. But if you don't have White Angelica, you can use frankincense for this last step. But what we do with White Angelica, and I would seriously keep White Angelica on you if you're an empath or you're sensitive, because White Angelica is a blend that is for protection. So I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to stand up and show you what I do with it in a minute. I'll put a drop in my hand, I will breathe it, and then I will rub it on my shoulders. I will make sure I get it all over my shoulders and back here. I call it my angel wings because I was an angel for Halloween, if you saw my post. And I got out my White Angelica oil and I carried it around with me, but I really feel like White Angelica oil is another one similar to Valor that I need on a regular basis. So those I use every day. So I'll rub it on my shoulders, and then there's another step that I do with it that I think is important and that I'm going to share with you guys. So I'm going to stand up. So after I rub it on my shoulders, I breathe it and I sweep my energetic field or my aura. So you want to stand in a place where you're not going to bump the wall, or you want to have some space. And while I'm combing my energy field with White Angelica in all these different directions, I will say, I am protected. I am protected. So you're saying, I am protected. You're setting the intention in the beginning of your day that you're going to stay protected. And again, it's not, I used to think, oh, protected, gosh, what do we need to be protected from? But it's just energetic protection. You don't want to take on the woes of the world and whatever's happening on the news. And as soon as you open Facebook, you're taking in a lot. You're taking in, my grandma died, my dog is sick, whatever is going on in the White House. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're just taking on, sometimes I can't scroll my news feed because, I mean, I love you guys and I do love to hear what's going on in everyone's lives. I literally love Facebook because I've reconnected with so many family and friends. But before I get onto Facebook, I have to be centered. I have to have used my Wet Angelica and my Valor. It doesn't mean that it always happens, but when I don't, and I start my day with scrolling the feed or hearing about the shooting that just happened, it feels, I get that gut punch feeling. I feel sick to my stomach because I can't handle it. And it's horrible. And so I don't want anyone to feel that. And I feel like, what if we could start our day with something that prevented us from the gut punch, you know? And it's not to be that I have to just not ever know what's going on in the world. I have to totally tune myself out. But I do have to disconnect and unplug from it because I am too sensitive to handle all of that. So I don't know if that makes sense or resonates with you guys, but that's my good day protocol. So those are like the 4 that I have been using consistently. And before, I was using Valor and White Angelica every day. I literally have used those every day for a very long time, unless one of them goes out of stock and I find a substitute. So if for some reason you don't have Valor, you could use one of the tree oils, I always call them, or Sacred Mountain is a wonderful blend that is grounding. There's also a blend called Grounding. Doesn't have the same effect for me as Valor, but it's called Grounding, so there's a blend that you could use in place of that. So that's how I start. And then another thing that I think is important with being highly sensitive and taking care of ourselves is to support our immune system. Because if we are that sensitive and we get drained that easily by things that we hear and things that are going on around us, the stronger we are physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, the more we're going to be able to be protected and kind of weather the storm of whatever is happening. So I feel like I need more immune support. The more I kind of open up these sensitive parts of myself by using oils and learning about emotions and releasing blocks and trauma and all this stuff, I need to stay really strong, and especially if I'm starting to teach that to other people. So for our immune system, thieves we all have. So Premium Starter Kit is like, Premium Starter Kit oils, we should be using all those like every day. Sometimes I don't use Panaway, but pretty much the other ones I'm using throughout the day. For digestion, peppermint and digize, lemon in my water. I'm using Thieves in purification. Thieves is great, but I think, and purification is great, but once your body is adjusted to all the Premium Starter Kit oils, we need more. Just like we need a variety of food, our body and our mind and our soul, we just need a variety of oils and supplements and food and crystals, which we'll get to in a bit, that help keep us balanced. And you have to tune in and figure out what that is for you for the day. So we've talked about taking a deep breath, either thinking about the oil, supplement, or food or crystal that you need and taking a deep breath, or actually holding it and asking your body. When you get a really deep open breath, that's a yes. If it's a shallow or a tight breath, not so much. You don't necessarily need that thing. So Immu Power is another oil that's wonderful. It's got thyme and oregano in it. You can rub it on the soles of your feet at night. It's great for supporting the immune system. Exodus 2. So I did not hear about that oil for a while, until maybe a year or two ago, and I was like, what is this, Exodus 2? I love it. It's one of my favorite oils for supporting the immune system. And so that's one that I keep on hand. You can rub it on your feet. You could diffuse it. What else? Egyptian Gold is another blend that's great for the immune system, and it's, for some reason, one that I didn't hear of right away. So you might need something else besides Thieves, or to alternate with Thieves if you're trying to support your immune system. And you can, if you don't have those oils, like I said, you can think about them and do the breath test, or if you do muscle testing, or if you have some other intuitive way of figuring out what you need, you can do that. And the other thing is supplements. So I really need supplements, and we all need a variety of supplements. And one thing that I learned but didn't try until recently was mineral essence. So I've taken mineral essence before. It comes in a dropper. We all need minerals. Super important to have minerals, and especially if we're highly sensitive, because we get depleted easily. We have more stress because if we're dealing with whatever, our emotions and other people's and how it's affecting us. And that's depleting for our adrenals, sit on top of our kidneys back here, which is that low back area. So if we feel depleted easily, we need to be replenishing with nourishment and nutrients and grounding food and minerals. So to get more minerals in our diet, we can eat foods like yams and carrots and like root vegetables, because those are grounding, and they have the minerals that come straight from the earth, but also mineral essence, so it comes in a dropper. You can put it in Ningxia and drink it. I have a hard time with the taste of it, so I was putting it in capsules. And then I just didn't feel like doing that anymore. And I was like, I know I need to use this. How am I supposed to use this? And I heard that you can actually rub it in your hands and put it behind your knees. And I know that sounds really weird and really crazy, but when I was putting together the information to share with you guys, that popped into my head like 3 times. Mineral essence behind the knees. Like waking me up in the middle of the night for me to write it down. I keep like a pad of paper and a nightlight. And I was like waking me up, like remember to tell them about mineral essence behind the knees. So somebody in here must need to hear that. So anyway, I put my mineral essence behind my knees today. And if you want to try that, it's, I don't know, another way for your body to absorb those minerals. So try it, and that might be the magic sauce for you. And then Ningxia Red, it's super important for immune system and also just that element of nourishment. We need a lot of nourishment if we are taxed emotionally and physically and we're trying to keep our bodies really robust and strong. It's part of staying protected. So there's the energetics of like we're using the oil, we're saying I am protected, but we're protecting from the inside. Ningxia Red fuels our cells. It's really important to have all of those antioxidants. We're getting antioxidants from the oils, which is awesome too, but it's a whole food and it's just giving us feeding our cells in a different way and giving us energy from the inside out on that physical level. So Ningxia Red, I keep packets in my purse because sometimes I'll be out and about and I will forget to eat, or I'll realize that I'm feeling depleted and I'm like at the kids' soccer practice or something, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just need something right now. And if I have a Ningxia Red packet, it's like perfect. It tides me over until I can get a snack or get my next meal. The other thing is multi-greens. So we need greens because greens are nourishing and they are grounding. So multi-greens capsules are super easy. You could break them open and put them in your smoothie, or you can just swallow them. But they're, great for the immune system. And again, just feeding our cells so that we're strong on the inside. And then the last supplement that I wanted to mention is Super B, because B vitamins help us to regulate our nervous system and the amount of stress. So we release too much cortisol, we get that kind of adrenaline, we're like, oh, B vitamins help us to manage that. And so I think for me, B vitamins are super important. So those are the supplements that I alternate between with a few others, but that I pretty much need very regularly in my life to help me feel good on the inside and kind of grounded physically. The other thing is I notice, so like raise your hand or give a thumbs up or something if you are really sensitive to temperature changes, like really uncomfortable if you get too hot or really uncomfortable if you're too cold. I am. Like if I get overheated, I'm like, oh, I'm so hot and I'm just so uncomfortable. And so I like to carry around in my car, if it's summertime or if I'm going to be in Maui or wherever, Fiji or somewhere where it's really hot and I don't want to get overheated, I carry around peppermint in a little spray bottle, or at least just peppermint oil, because peppermint oil cools us. Like more than anything I've ever tried. So you could spray it on the back of your neck, put up your hair if you're a girl and put your hair up and spray the back of your neck. You could swipe it across your forehead or across your shoulders. Breathing it, because sometimes if you get really hot, you almost feel kind of nauseous and stuffy and blah. So peppermint just cools you if you're a hot person or sensitive to heat. And then the opposite side of that is if you are super cold. So now this time of year for me, I'm like cold hands, cold feet. I have a blanket on my lap right now. Like I'm chilly unless I'm sitting out in the sun, absorbing getting my vitamin D and really warming up. I get too cold. And so we need to work to keep our body temperature balanced, maybe a little harder than the average person who's not an empath or super sensitive. So some things to keep our bodies warm are some of the warming oils like ginger and nutmeg and cinnamon bark. And you can add those. So one thing I do at night, because sometimes at the end of the day, when I've had like a stressful day, I will just want to eat after dinner. Like my body feels like I just want to eat again, like at 10 at night if I've eaten dinner earlier, and I don't really want to eat right before I go to bed. It just doesn't feel that good for me to go to bed to have food in my stomach when I go to bed. So sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I do, and I'm like, fine, I'm having a cookie and it's fine. Other times I want to nourish my body with something else, and I will warm up some almond milk and I will add some of those oils, black pepper, I will add ginger or nutmeg and a little bit of raw honey. And that to me is really, I don't know, it just feels really nurturing and really soothing and comfortable and warming and like, I don't know, nourishing on a really deep level for me. Warm milk, almond milk is what I use, and then add some of those grounding oils, warming oils. And sometimes I'll put even a little sprinkle of cinnamon on top, or I make golden milk. You guys can search in this group. I figured out how to make golden milk with turmeric and some of those same oils, and you blend it up with either coconut oil or ghee and whatever kind of sweetener you want. And it's like so nourishing. And so if you're a cold person and you need to balance that warmth, that's another way to cultivate that warmth in your body. And then eating protein. So I am vegetarian. I was brought up pretty vegetarian. We ate a little bit of fish. No judgment for anyone who eats meat. Obviously, however you eat is fine. But I think that when we're really sensitive, something to keep us grounded is protein. So however you can get your protein, whether it's fish or eggs, I find that sometimes I crave more fish and eggs, even though there's been periods of my life where I haven't eaten that at all because, I don't know, either I forgot about it or I didn't feel like I needed it. But the most important thing to me with what we eat is getting clear and asking, what do I need right now? What does my body need? Because I think we get too hung up in listening to what somebody else is telling us to eat. Like, you need to eat all raw, or you need to eat vegetarian, or you need to eat this. Well, that might not be what your body needs, and our bodies need something different every day, every season. If it's hot out, if it's cold out, if you've been under extra stress, you might need different food. So one thing that I've been really trying to work on is not trying to like eat the kale salad if my body doesn't want a kale salad. Like, I might need to cook the kale in a little bit of oil even in order for my body to really assimilate it and to make me feel good. Because sometimes, have you ever like eaten something because you felt like you had to, and then you don't feel very good, right? Even if it's something healthy, you eat the salad and you're like freezing and you feel like you don't digest it very well. You know, maybe you didn't need the salad. Maybe you needed some like steamed roasted vegetables or something. You know what I mean? I still think we need a balance of whole grains, fruits, vegetables, whatever. Anyway, getting more protein into your diet and listening to your body, I think, is really important. And then I like the protein powders from Young Living. And at first I was like, oh, well, they have whey in them, you know, or they're not 100% vegan or whatever. And I was kind of like, whatever. But again, I used that technique that I've been talking about where you either muscle test or you tune in and you ask your body, what do I need with the breath, or however you do it. My body was asking for the protein. So I gave my body the protein, and guess what? I felt great. So sometimes, even if it goes against what you believe or what you think you're supposed to do, listen in here, because that's more important. Unless you're on, you know, some doctor is, I'm, you know, not a doctor, not claiming to negate anything your doctor has told you. If you're under the care of a doctor, you need to do what they say. But I do think there's an element of we know what's best for our body. So that's what I'm getting at. So the protein's super important. I love the Pure Protein Complete. There's vanilla and chocolate. And I love the Balance Complete. That's my new protein powder that I even like better right now than the other two. And I will put in some frozen banana or just banana and our almond milk that we make and a couple scoops of that. And that makes me feel really good if I'm gonna go surf or go to Pilates. If I just eat a piece of fruit, I feel kind of depleted after I get exercise. So you need to have some protein first. And that's, again, just me. But tune into what you need. So how you guys doing? A lot of info, right? I'm not reading all of your comments. I'll have to go back and look at your comments later. Okay, so some other oils and different techniques that we can use. And I don't know where my Idaho Balsam Fir is. Usually it's on Paul's dresser because that's like one of his favorite oils. Oh, I bet I know where it is. He had some friends over last night and I bet it's out in the living room because he diffused it. Anyway, Idaho Balsam Fir is an amazing oil for that same technique that we did with the white angelica. It balances the energy in our 8th chakra, which is like up here. And so it cleanses our aura when we do that technique of where we kind of sweep like that. So it's another oil that you can use to sweep your energy field. And I learned that from Dr. Carolyn Mine, who wrote the book, Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils. That's a technique that she uses before she sees her clients and how she keeps her energy field strong so she doesn't take things on from other people. So that's one. Another oil that I really love, I always say it's my second favorite oil, is sacred frankincense. And sacred frankincense is just, the aroma to me is incredible. But what I will do is I will take some of it, and after I have a little bit in my hand, I'll smell it, and then I'll take it, and I like to put it right on the crown of my head. I like to do this with a lot of different oils, but I love putting sacred frankincense on the top of my head. So it's similar to frankincense, helps us to have like that spiritual connection. It does many wonderful things. It was given to baby Jesus, so it is lots of biblical references for frankincense, and you can Google it or look it up in your reference guide. But I love sacred frankincense, and I could bathe in it. So it's my second favorite oil to Valor. Use it however you want, but it's an oil that makes me feel balanced, strong, centered. It's great for the immune system. It's incredible for skin. It has a million different uses, but for me it's the aroma, and it just makes me feel great. So you probably have oils like that, and whatever that is for you. That's something that you should use regularly, not waiting until we feel kind of off. We just use the oils every day. We nourish our bodies every day. We do all of this every day so that we feel good and we're kind of prepared for when things happen, or we have to be in that situation where we're like, uh-oh, did I use my protective oils today? You can always excuse yourself and like go do whatever you need to do to get protected if you find yourself, forgetting to have done it. Three Wise Men is another blend, and I think it's right up there. But Three Wise Men for me feels really good right here over my third eye to help me connect to my intuition. So it has sandalwood, myrrh, and I believe frankincense. But I like to put it right here, and I like to use it when I want to be really tapped into my intuition, which I think a lot of sensitive people and empaths already are, but it's easy for us to get so flooded that we are like lost. We get kind of in our head. That's why we need to feel so grounded all the time. So we ground ourselves, and then we can tap into our intuition. And I'll put it right there, and I'll say, I am intuition, or I tap into my intuition. So I'm speaking with intention what I want while I'm using that. And this is our third eye. It's our, center for intuition and tapping into our intention anyway. And then another great technique is to use one of the oils from the Feelings collection. If you guys have heard of this collection, it's a wonderful way to get harmony, present time, forgiveness, valor, release, and what's the other one that's in there? Inner child. But I like to take present time and put it right over my thymus, right here, and to tap. And that helps strengthen our immune system. Do it right now and see how you feel, even if you don't have present time. Just tap right there. It feels really good to me to tap right there. So that's something that stimulates that thymus gland. It's supportive for our endocrine system. It wakes up the lungs. And it's something that I have been told over the years by different people to do every day. different healers and healthcare practitioners, naturopaths, chiropractors will say, tap your thymus every day. Gary Young says to do this when you put on present time. He says to put it right over your thymus specifically. So try that as something that you normally do and see how it helps you, what it does for you. The other thing that is really nice and nurturing is to put either forgiveness, which comes in that feelings kit, or inner child right over your navel. So right around your belly button. That's a place where a lot of nerves kind of come together. And that's like our nurturing point. It's where we were attached to our mom, right? That's a very special, significant, powerful place. So try putting that inner child oil or forgiveness oil around that point and just see how that feels for you. And then I wanted to mention rose oil, because we're super tapped in, super sensitive, super empathic, and we just go straight to using an oil like rose, which is super high frequency. It can almost make you feel a little bit ungrounded. I know for me, when I use rose, it actually makes me feel like I'm buzzing. So I have to have done some of this grounding stuff first. I have to use my Valor, eat my protein. Another thing is sticking your feet in the sand or being out in nature is another way to feel like grounded and centered and balanced. And then use your rose oil, or use the blends that have rose oil in them. But rose is, I think, even more powerful for people who are super sensitive to energy, because it is such a high frequency oil. And I will put it right on my crown. But I remember I used to put it on my hands before I would see clients for Reiki, or before I would do attunements when I was doing the Reiki trainings. And it would take the Reiki energy. So Reiki is just universal energy, is all that means. And it's a system of healing. And part of that system of healing is hands-on and allowing that energy to flow through you to someone else. So it's not your own energy, but the energy would be so strong, my hands would just get hot. So we can use that rose oil and have that ability of kind of tapping into that higher frequency and have, it raises our frequency and we have more energy. So, but be ready for it because it's strong. So I wanted to talk about the crystals to kind of wrap it up. Crystals are so amazing for grounding and for protection. They're formed under the earth. They're great for absorbing negative energy. And I have a rose quartz crystal on right now. I often wear jewelry that is either wood or shells or crystals, because those kind of earth elements help me to have that more grounded feeling, so that I don't float away. So I have some really fun crystals here, and I wanted to talk about copper. So these aren't actually crystals, it's more of a mineral, I guess, or a metal, but copper. So these copper balls, they feel so amazing. They're really heavy. I don't know if anyone has ever used copper before or worn copper jewelry. There's Ayurvedic practices where people drink out of copper. They'll put their water in a copper pitcher and drink out of copper cups to help their bodies absorb more copper. So this kind of goes along with the mineral essence we were talking about, like we need more minerals. Let me tell you what copper is for. It's necessary for producing and storing iron in our body. So for anyone who is anemic, you need more blood, you need more iron. I easily get depleted and I easily get anemic. That's something that I wasn't aware of that much until I was pregnant and I started getting blood work. And it's something I need to work on, building my blood and being very strong and intentional about eating foods that are high in iron. And anyway, so copper is necessary for, producing and storing that iron, but it also helps to balance all of our doshas. So if you have studied Ayurveda, there are these 3 different doshas, and they're basically mind-body traits that we have, but they create balance in all of them. We all have a little bit of each one, but usually we are more extreme. So I am a Vata. And there's a bunch of physical and mental characteristics that go along with being a Vata, and then there's certain foods and different things that balance you. But anyway, it helps balance all of them, and it balances the polarities in our body, copper does. So the energetic balance too, but they're cleansing, they conduct energy, and they assist with fatigue. So for anyone who feels like they get really drained easily, which is, like we talked about, being an empath, you might feel really drained after being around somebody who's told you too much, or you've heard something, or whatever it is. So copper, these are awesome. I will just sometimes put them in my pockets and drive somewhere and then, take them out or whatever. But I love holding them in my hands sometimes just when I meditate or having them around me. So copper. And again, this is just for me. There's lots of different crystals and lots of things that you guys could explore. One really good resource is, this is a really simple book called The Crystal Bible. I think crystals and oils just go together really nicely. So I often will support a system of my body with, an oil or a supplement, and then also see, well, what crystal, is there a crystal that I'm drawn to or that I have that could help enhance the benefits of that oil or supplement or food or whatever I'm working on. And you can buy little teeny crystals, or you can, spend more money and get bigger ones, but you can find very small, very inexpensive crystals that have the energy and the capability of doing whatever you need. So this little crystal Bible is just a good resource for looking up different symptoms, different ailments, kind of like the reference guide that we have for oils, but for crystals. And it'll give you, all the different crystals and what they're for and how to use them. So obsidian is a super special oil for grounding, and there's all different types. But obsidian, I have some great information in this book that I wanted to read you about obsidian because I was just fascinated. So it's formed under the earth because it's molten lava that cooled so quickly that it didn't have time to crystallize. So it's a stone, they call it without boundaries or limitations. It works really fast and it's really powerful. But what it's for is for protection. So if we feel like we are subject to, what's called psychic attack, where we are really affected physically and emotionally by someone else's negativity, like if someone gets really mad or something happens and you actually feel whatever happened, or even from a distance, that something is going on and you can actually feel that in your own body. Obsidian helps you to stay protected from that. It helps you, it's like a white angelica in a physical form. And there are lots of crystals that are for protection. This is just one that I'm particularly drawn to because it actually forms like a grounding cord through our body and down into the earth is what it's for. And it's really helpful for highly sensitive people. So for all of us empaths, or the people that we know that are empaths, but it also helps us to deal with stress. And there are different types. I wanted to show you a couple different types. So a lot of times it just looks black. Here's a small piece like this. It's just clear and black. And then this one, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of got some little sheen to it. That's a different kind. I forget what it's called, silver sparkle or something. And then this one, I don't know if you can see those little rings in it. But two types of obsidian that are very gentle, I've got them all around me, are Apache tears. So they're kind of round and smooth and they're more lightweight. And the other one that's really gentle is snowflake obsidian that has those little dots in it. And so by gentle, I mean that they will soak up the negative energies and help you process things in a very gentle way. Whereas obsidian can sometimes be so powerful that in clearing away whatever negativity, it also pulls up something that you need to kind of deal with. So sometimes people will talk about, or I will put these under my bed, or I'll wear them in my pockets, or just hold them in my hands. I fly with these ones because they help me feel grounded when I'm up in the air. But so they say that, sometimes it can be too intense to use obsidian. So the snowflake obsidian and the Apache tears are the more gentle obsidian, just for helping to keep us clear and grounded without necessarily bringing up a bunch of stuff that we need to work on. But if you're ready to have stuff brought up, hey, maybe obsidian would be good for you because we have oils that can help facilitate, releasing, could use some release afterward. So that's obsidian. The other one that I love is amethyst. So it's like the purple stone. It's really pretty. It's also for protection. And I have a little amethyst sphere, a little ball. I like the round ones. Sometimes you find stones that have been, you know, formed into a certain shape and they've been polished. Sometimes you find them in their raw form, so they're more jagged and pointy and they're kind of in the rock or the earth still. Either way, whatever you're drawn to is fine. And I was going to read to you a little about amethyst from my book. Again, guards against psychic attacks, so taking things from other people. It helps us to be more connected with our third eye, so it's great for meditation and being tapped into your intuition and whatever you need to know. It enhances spiritual awareness. It's great for memory as well. So you could wear amethyst, or you could go to sleep with a little piece of it on your third eye. If you had a small, like, smooth piece, I like to sometimes go to sleep with, see if I have, so this is called a cabochon. It's round on one side. This is an amethyst. It's called Larimar, but it's round on one side and then it's flat on the other, so it sits really nicely on your third eye when you're going to sleep at night or when you lay down or something. But it helps us, amethyst helps us to set realistic goals, and it also helps us with fear and anxiety and anger. So what a great stone to have around us, especially with the support of all of the oils as we start to work on our feelings and our emotions. So I love amethyst. It's great for the blood, the immune system, headaches. I could go on and on. It also fades in the sunlight. So some crystals can be recharged by sun, but this one will actually fade in the sunlight, so you don't want to keep it in direct sunlight. Obsidian is a wonderful stone. After it's absorbed negative energy, or if you've used it for a while, you cleanse it by putting it under water. There are some stones, like selenite, that if you put under water, it'll actually start to deteriorate, because selenite is kind of flaky, striated, and it'll start to fall apart. But obsidian, you can rinse under water. All crystals can be cleared and cleansed in the moonlight. So whenever there's a full moon, whatever crystals you have, you can put them out in the full moon and it will clear them, cleanse them, and recharge them so that they're all ready to use again. The other crystal, what else do I have out here? I have smoky quartz and I have citrine. And I have a big old piece of smoky quartz. I keep this out in my living room. And smoky quartz is great for making negative energy go away. So if you have one that has a point on it, you put the point toward your door or toward a window so that any negative energy or negative emotions or anything you don't want is going out the door, out there, out the window, out the door. So that is smoky quartz, and it's, again, a really good grounding stone and kind of a protective stone. It makes up a lot of the earth's crust, so it helps us be connected with the earth. And one thing that it's good for is helping us feel protected from like the electronics, like all the EMFs and like electronic buzzing that we feel. Like, I don't know about you guys, but when something's plugged in, I hear like a hum or a buzz from it, and I'm super sensitive to that, or like buzzing lights. So smoky quartz helps us to feel protected from that kind of energy. And then citrine is the last crystal that I wanted to talk about. So I have this big citrine ball. And citrine is wonderful. You can also just have a little small piece of citrine like this. Here's a little different shape. It's pointed on one side and it kind of sits like this. But citrine is wonderful for supporting that area right under our ribs, our solar plexus chakra, where we get that kind of gut feeling sometimes. So I will sleep with this under my bed. I have it actually it also is a stone for abundance and prosperity, and so I keep it, if you read about feng shui, if you put it in a certain corner of your house, it's supposed to help you with abundance and prosperity. So that's where it usually lives, but anytime I feel like I need to really balance my solar plexus chakra, which helps us to feel confident, and it helps us to learn, and it helps us to teach. So I use it for many different things, but I love my little crystal ball. But you can also just get a little teeny piece, or sometimes I wear one on a chain that kind of hangs right there, and it helps me feel protected when I'm out at parties or classes or events, and I want to feel confident and strong, but also kind of protected from other people's energies. So, wow, that was a lot of info. Does anybody have any questions? That I didn't read all of these in here, but where do I get crystals? I think someone said. Okay, so crystals, The one thing when you're shopping for crystals that I think is important is to ask the person who you're getting them from if they are untreated, because sometimes they will dye crystals or heat treat them to make them turn a certain color, and we don't care about the color as much as we care about the benefits. So it's kind of like when we talk about the oils, you kind of have to do your research and find the purest oil. Same thing with the crystals. You could buy something that looks pretty, but it might be not natural. It may have been dyed or heat treated, which it's not going to necessarily hurt you, but it's not going to have the healing benefits. So if you're wanting to have the benefits of the crystal, you just need to check your source and make sure that they haven't been, dyed or heated. So I would ask the person that you're getting the crystals from, and you can order crystals online. I mean, I got these copper balls online, but for most of the time when I am selecting crystals, I like to pick them up. It's like picking out a pet. They pick you. So I was walking through the store recently and I was shopping for somebody else and I ended up finding something for me. But that's kind of how it works with crystals. You feel drawn to it and then you can look up, what it is, what it's for, and usually it's something that you really need. So we have a couple shops. I live in Encinitas, California. We have a shop in San Diego called South American Imports, which is down in Old Town. And when I used to teach classes on crystals, we would go down there and have all the students would go down there to kind of stock up on their healing kit to balance the chakras. And I like them because it's a family-run business. It's a guy and his son, and they're really sweet. They go to Brazil and pick everything out themselves. The more you buy, the better deal they give you. They kind of just have a sliding scale, like whatever the price tag is. They're like, well, what do you want to pay for it? You're like, what? So they're very sweet. And then we have Soulscape. We have a bead shop downtown Encinitas that has crystals. You'll just need to, there's gem fairs, traveling gem fairs. You can look that up on the internet. There are certain places you can go where they'll have beads and different crystals. And again, you just have to ask the seller, has this been treated, and figure out the way it makes you feel when you hold it and stuff like that. So I hope that helps with where to buy them. But thank you guys for joining. I am so thrilled, like I said, that this many people wanted to learn about empaths, because I had no idea where that came from, but obviously it was meant to be. And I thank you all for being here, and I hope that you learned something that is going to help you feel better and something that you can then go out and show somebody else or teach somebody else. So have a great day, and go use some Valor or some oil that's going to help you feel really grounded and really nurtured and really comfortable, so that you can go through the rest of your day feeling nice and balanced. All right, bye guys. I'll talk to you soon.